Hello there. It's currently pretty late here actually. Evening. This is my OOPG revision video, and these are what I will be covering: class diagrams, method, object compositions, the creation of objects, array list, and some important things to take note after this video actually. I might merge two videos into one, so you may hear me say this part and then second part, but other than that, I will just quickly run through this PowerPoint. It's really simple, really short, and if you don't understand anything, just pause and read what is on screen. It should clarify. If not, you can always come to me tomorrow. Now we'll start off with the first topic, which is the class diagram. Right, so the class diagram will look like this. There will be three sections. The first section is the name that you should name your class. The second will be a list of all the properties. By properties, I mean attributes, and which is like the private string name, private string, private char, gender, private integer, balance, simple stuff like that. Now, attribute has another name which is called arguments. These are put inside, if you can see my mouse, these are put inside method smooth brackets. You see this smooth bracket here beside the curly bracket, obviously. Basically, arguments are put in here. Now they can use the word either attributes put in the curly brackets, but more than likely they'll use the word arguments. Don't get confused, they mean exactly the same thing. Now you'll see I didn't put smooth brackets here. I kind of left it out by mistake, but that's just that. Right, another thing, I'll just move on so it's easier for you to know. Basically, this is what the class diagram table will look like. The first section will always be the class name. Take note that this will also be the name of your constructor, always, for now. So basically, this is your class name, and as we move on, you'll know where, when, and how to use this class name. The second section should contain all your attributes or properties, like name, string, gender, char. So as our OOPG teacher or lecturer or tutorial, whatever, as our teacher has said, the crossover method, when you see the word name colon string, it basically means they want you to write private string name, private char gender, private string hunger, private string mood, so on and so forth. Whatever is on the right goes to the left, and whatever is on the left goes to the right. Excuse me, it crosses over. Sorry, I just had my dinner and everything. Yeah, it crosses over, so it swaps. So the name type is a string. On the last section, you'll see the first line is always the constructor. The constructor name is always the class name, always. So it'll be pet, and then the arguments that you need, and to separate one argument from another argument, you use a comma. These are the methods, the normal methods. If you do not see anything after the smooth bracket closes, the return type is a void. If you do see something after the smooth brackets, this is the return type. Be it bank account, or a bank customer, or book, or array list. Like, say maybe in your attributes you have array list, my array list. So down here you will most likely see my array list. That is your return type. Your array list is your return type. So if you have any questions about the names of arrays, we'll cover that later on in the slides. Moving on, writing a class definition. I'm pretty sure most of you already know. You write a class with the class name. So it looks like public class, then the name pet, then curly brackets. Once you've done that, you declare the attributes, like you write down private, string, name, private, so on and so forth. For step 3, you write the constructor, which is just pets, or the class name. Just copy down the class name, brackets, then the attributes. They will look like a string, name, comma, char, gender, close brackets, then curly brackets. That is it. It's very simple. Do not freak out. Next, it's the methods. Now, methods, as I've just said, will be public, void, if there's nothing behind the smooth brackets, the name, and then your curly bracket. But if there is something behind, then it will be public, integer, the name, whatever is inside the brackets, which is like integer num, the crossover as usual, and then close brackets, close smooth brackets, curly brackets, and then so on and so forth. Right. And this is the syntax for your method. It'll be public, return type, method name, arguments. So this is very important. This is something you have to remember to write methods. It will always be this format. This is the format that you have to write it in. These are essentially your keywords, just like in mathematics when you answer the pigeonhole questions. This is the format that you have to follow. Right, moving on. Get methods, also known as getter. Basically, getter's return type is the return type of whatever you're trying to return. Like, if you're trying to return hunger, say get hunger, you'll be public string get hunger. Then for getter there is no arguments, it's just smooth brackets. So in the case of mood, it'll be public string get mood. In the case of gender, it'll be public char get gender. In the case of numbers, say balance, it's balance colon integer, then it'll be balance, it'll be public integer get balance. The return type is basically what type that attribute is, which is color. If it's color, then the attribute type, data type, is string. If it's something like balance, a number, then of course it's integer. So most of you probably already understand this. Moving on, as you can see, attributes, so you can pause if you don't understand. And moving on, this is the setter. So it's setter return type is always void. The theory behind this, or something for you to easily digest, why? It's because in setter you want to change the value of something. You want to set the value of something to something else. Like color, the color now is blue, but you want to change the color to red. So you are changing it, you're telling it what you want. It does not have to return anything. You do not expect anything in return. So it's public void because there is no return type. And then the method name, set, color, and then the arguments. Arguments, simple. Depending on the type type of attribute as well. So previously, for getter, you would use the type of attribute, and then you use that as the return type. The return type is the attribute type, the data type. But for your set color, your arguments is your attribute data type, if you can see that link right there. Of course, you have to write string s, because for every data type you need to have a name for it, like a string name, the name of this string type, string container, as I've used this analogy, used this example for quite a few times. This string container is named name. This char container is named gender. So this string container in the arguments bracket is s. It's as simple as that. Now, it depends on what you're trying to change. Here you're trying to set color. So obviously it's this dot color. Of course you can just write this, but it'll be clearer if you write out this dot color equals s. S being whatever you typed in. Now, if you actually bothered to listen to me today on Monday, the 9th of December, before our DSET class, if you ever get confused with anything related to equals in Java, basically what you do is you do whatever's on the right side first, and then you put it into whatever's on the left side. So the color now is blue, but you typed in red. So you want red. If you cover up, just cover color and equal up, covers up. S is red at the moment. It contains the string red. So you want to put red into your color because you want to change blue to red. So that's how you understand this line down here, color equals S. Same goes for here. You're actually returning the attribute from above. So as you can see, this S is actually linked to this S. Now, creating objects. Your objects will be created in your driver, your main class. Now, some of you have actually made a mistake, or rather do not understand why you need to put a name here, especially for array list. So we'll put array list AB equals new array list, and stuff like that. Of course, I'm missing the angle brackets, but this is just an example. Why do we have to put AB, or why do we have to use this, and why do we have to like AB dot get, AB dot set, and things like that? Why AB dot? The answer is pretty simple. Now you can have several pets, like say pet, my pet, pet, your pet, pet, our pet. Now if you were to type in pet.get, the code is gonna stare at you and just, I don't know what the hell are you talking about. I don't know what you're referring to. Now the reasoning is because you can have more than one class. This is your pet class. You can have more than one pet class. This is basically your constructor, but yeah. So this is your pet class or constructor, and you can have several of these pet classes or objects created. So in order to differentiate them, you have your object reference, which is your name. Like my name's Damien, and we have Eliza and Brenda and Eli. So in order to differentiate us, we give ourselves name. In this case, this object's name is my pet. So if you wanna like say change the name, you have to go my pet dot set name, my pet dot I don't know, set hunger, I don't know, whatever you wanna set. So that's the reason why you need this, because you need something to refer to. So the this is also something, this is the format you need to create objects. Of course, the one we normally write is pet, my pet equals new, then pet right in front of these brackets. If you get too confused, you don't want to learn something new, just follow the old format and just go pet, my pet equals new pet, then brackets and your arguments inside. Okay, if you get confused, you do not want to learn anything new, you want to stick with something old that works, that you understand better and have known longer, just stick with that. Right, moving on. This is method overloading, where the name and the arguments together make up a signature. This is the signature of your method, and you can have several same method names as long as the entire signature is different. It has to be the entire signature that's different, and you can have the same names, of course. So the restrictions of these is that you can't overload with the return type alone. The signature still has to be different, and of course you can't overload by access modifier, which is public and private, who can access this method by the modifier alone. Your signature, which is your name and your arguments, still has to be different. It has to be different for you to overload. So otherwise there will be a error. So yeah. Next we'll talk about object composition. Now object composition, it's basically where you have one object called bank customer, and within this bank customer there is another object. So it's like putting a plastic bag in a plastic bag, you know. It's kind of the same reason. In the large plastic bag you put in maybe a bag of fries, your phone and your wallet, and a small plastic bag. And in the small plastic bag you probably put in like your lunch and your hard disk, some snacks you bought like Mentos, that are smaller than your large packet of fries or roller coaster or whatever. So it's basically a plastic bag inside a plastic bag, if that helps you understand it better. Now there are two ways to write this. The first way is to have your constructor for your bank account inside your bank customer, which is basically you're following the plastic bag kind of method. Of course this is something new, and this is something that the teacher didn't teach up till this revision note, obviously. So I advise you not to learn method 1. Instead just stick with method 2, where you create two separate classes, and in your driver app you create your bank account and then put it into your bank customer class, like so. As you can see, this is your bank customer class. You try to retrieve, sorry, a bit of burping. You try to retrieve your bank account object through by putting it in your putting it as one of your arguments, like so. So you create your bank account first and then put it into your arguments for your bank customers. Now declaring and creating array list, right? So the syntax goes array list. Of course you have to import it, but the syntax goes array list, object type, and the name, I've told you what the name is for. It's for referencing. So this is pretty important. If you're going to do anything to the array list, you're going to need to reference it somehow. So you give it a name. They may, and most probably will, tell you what they want you to name your array list. So do not worry about coming up with a name. In the case of your object type, it's the type of objects you're going to put into your array list, right? So just follow this format and you should be fine. Array list, object type, array list name equals new array list, object type, smooth brackets, semicolon. Okay, just this line right here. Now I assume most of you already know the add command or add code, which is basically the referencing name dot add, then the object you want to add. Now as you can see, there is an object called E1. It is an employee type object, and what you add is you add E1. You don't add employee. That's because you're using the reference name. Now for your array list, you also use the name of your array list. Instead of writing array list.add, you write emplist.add, because it is the name of your array list. You use it to reference. You're referring to this particular array list that you want to add E1 into. Alright? For remove, you can only remove at a specific index, and you can't remove an item directly like this unless you do a traverse, which I will cover on later. Now this is get. I'm pretty sure all of you know get as well. You get it from a specific index. So for getter, usually you do have to traverse to find the particular index that it is at, but otherwise this is how get is done. It's referencing name dot get, then index. Now these are other methods like isEmpty, smooth brackets, size, smooth brackets, toArray, smooth brackets. Now for toArray, you most likely wouldn't need this at all, so don't stress over toArray, don't stress over what it does and stuff like that. Now if you want to print out the true or false value of isEmpty, if it's empty, it gives you true. If it's false, it gives you false, but it doesn't actually print it out. So what you have to do is you have to type in system.out.println smooth brackets array list referencing name dot is empty, these two smooth brackets, close the smooth brackets for your print line, and then semicolon. Same thing for your size. If you wanted to print out the number, you have to system.out.println. Now, traversing an array, this is pretty important because a couple of you don't know and don't understand it as well. Now, say you wanna print out everything in your emp list, right? You wanna print out every employee in your emp list. What you're gonna do is you're gonna have a for loop. For employee. Now, whatever this is, whatever employee is, will always be the object type. It'll always be the object type. Okay, the object type of which your array list is. So if it's a string, then it'll be string s colon emp list. As you can see, emp list is on the right hand side, and it's the word emp list because it's the referencing name. Yeah, you have to give it the name of the array list you want it to traverse. Okay, say I've got array list 1, array list 2, array list 3, right? You write for employee colon array list. Your code is gonna scratch its head, look at you and say, okay, you have 3 array lists, man. Which one do you want me to traverse? You gotta make yourself clear. I'm gonna punch you in the face if you don't. Right, all jokes aside, you have to give it the array list to tell it which one you want it to traverse. In this case, it's emp list, and the objects inside emp list are employee type. And as all containers, as I've explained before, needs its own name to reference. Why and how do you reference? Simple, system.out.println e. You reference it here. You reference it here. So every object that you pick up out of emp list, you print it out once, put it back in. Take the next one, you print it out once, you put it back in. That's how it's done. And that's it. I will move on to the parts where there are things for you to remember. I will continue on both Notepad and NetBeans.